Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Emily. I am super excited to do this update on my 5-star predictions. So I have finished one of the 5 and I have like an hour and a half left of the audiobook on the second. So I'm going to update on what I have so far and then we'll go from there. So these two are the geared more towards adult books. The first one is called The English Masterpiece by Catherine Ray. So now this is the 3rd Catherine Ray book I have read. Absolutely wonderful. So we are set in England in the 1970s. I'm not exactly sure the exact date, but 1970s in a art museum. So Pablo Picasso has just died and we follow these 2 women, Diana and Lily. Diana is like the head of the museum or something. She's a high-ranking museum exec, and Lily happens to be her assistant. And Lily kind of idolizes Diana. She just wants to be just like her. They both love art. They both are artists in their own way. And as soon as Pablo Picasso dies, they scramble trying to get this exhibit all up and running, based on his life, his paintings, to kind of celebrate him as an artist. And so they make all this happen. Everything works out well. They get it on time. And Lily is walking around and she notices one painting that seemed just a little bit off. And without thinking, she says, "That's a forgery!" This all happens in the first chapter, so no spoilers, I promise. But that statement saying that this is a forged Pablo Picasso sets off this sort of chain reaction of forgery and, fraud and trying to get the real thing. It was wonderful. I would probably say 4 stars. And here's why. So the first 30% of the book is very repetitious. Lily is going over in her mind, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that. And it happens a lot. But after about 30%, we are off and running. And Lily gets framed for being this forger. And so she has to sort of fend for herself and be like, no, I'm not the forger. I'm the one that pointed it out. And so she goes on this mad hunt to find who the true forger was. I loved that as part of it. It was so interesting. I love artwork and I love museums. And one of my favorite classes in college, so my minor is deaf studies. So I can speak sign language. And a lot of my friends are deaf, and so being a part of that deaf community, I took a deaf art class where we would discuss deaf artists and sort of their history and everything all in sign language, and it was my favorite class other than my children's lit class. I loved that class so much, and so I've always loved art. I'm attempt to be an artist every once in a while when I'm feeling creative. So that part of it and the forgery part of it was so intriguing. And you follow Diana, who is a part of this in a very, very massive way. And her husband, who is a dingbat. There is a sprinkle of romance. I didn't need the romance. I understand why she put it in there, but I didn't need it between Lily and I can't remember the guy's name. That was what it was. And then the other thing that made it a 4-star, not a 5-star, was Lily's family relationship. We see Lily interact with her sister and her parents. Her sister is married with kids of her own, and is pregnant with her 3rd. And for whatever reason, Lily and her sister hate each other because of things that happened before Lily was even born. And then something that happened when the girls were like 5 and 6 or something, 5 and 7, something like that. And it's like, okay, y'all are in your 30s. And this thing that happened when these girls were younger it was a car accident. And so their mom is now in a wheelchair, and Lily thinks that it's all her fault, and all these different things. And I didn't understand the family dynamics and why that was important, or why they were even mad at each other. Like, I felt like that wasn't fleshed out very well. But the forgery, I couldn't stop reading listening, because I listened to all of these right now, because it was so interesting, and how the ending was one of my favorite ways that movies make it. Movies have used this previously. My mom's favorite movie one of her favorite movies is the Thomas Crown Affair. I've never seen it, but I guess it happens in that. And we had just watched a recent a TV show recently, Miss Scarlet. If you've never seen Miss Scarlet from PBS, side note, totally adorable. But they use it in that, and so I loved the creativity in how Lily used that creativity to save herself. Just the family aspect was like, this, I don't get this. Let me get back to the forgery and why that forgery is important. Anyway, so there's that. I loved it. 4 stars. Will continue to read Catherine Ray. I've loved all 3 that I've read so far. Okay, my next one, buckle up because I'm about to gush. I am not quite finished with it yet, but right from the get-go, I knew it was going to be 5 stars. It is called The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley by Catherine Walsh. Excuse me, Courtney Walsh. Courtney Walsh. This is my first Courtney Walsh, and it will not be my last. I'm really hoping that others are this as fantastic as this is. My aunt texted me one day and said, Emily, you've got to read this book. It's adorable. It's life-changing. I think you would love it. Read it. And I said, you got it. We follow Isadora Bentley, who in the first chapter, it's her 30th birthday, and she is spending it in the junk food aisle. And she's like, I am going to binge on my 30th birthday and eat whatever I want. And so first off, I'm like, okay, she and I can be friends. I'm totally on board with that. And she is at the checkout counter, as has her copious amounts of chips and goodies. She sees this magazine, and so she flips open, and it was 31 Ways to Be Happy is the article. And she's like, well, that's a load of hogwash. And so she's looking at it, and the first one is smile more. She's like, that's ridiculous. So on a whim, she gets the magazine with the article in it to prove her wrong. Now, Isadora works at a college as a researcher, so she knows how to be scientific about things and break things down into a way of science, right? She doesn't have a lot of friends. She doesn't have a lot of coworkers that even like her, that even talk to her. She is very isolated in her life. And so she starts with smile more. And this changes her life. She starts meeting friends. She starts meeting her neighbor and the neighbor's daughter. And they just sort of build each other into their lives. She meets this elderly gentleman who has just buried his wife and is going through the loss of losing his companion for however many years. And she is put on this team with this very handsome professor who has written a book, but he needs a researcher to help kind of organize it and make sure that it runs smoothly. She's like, absolutely not, I work alone, because she has past experience with buttheads. And she's like, this is just another person who's going to take all of my hard work and claim it for themselves. But her boss forces her to work with this guy, and then they become friends, and they become a little bit more. And Courtney Walsh is hilarious. She is a hilarious author, and she puts down things that I think. So Isadora talks in her head, and like she works things out in her head, and I do that constantly. I am constantly talking to myself in my head, and most of the time when I'm alone, I'm talking to myself out loud. And so I am reading this and I am laughing so hard. The audiobook is fantastic. Fantastic. And different thoughts have different accents. So one has like a German accent and one has a French accent. And it's like, oh my goodness, I've done that too. And I have notes, so that's why I'm looking at my computer screen. I want to read you guys a couple things because they are so funny. I am laughing so hard, I'm crying. So one of them in chapter 6, Isadora and Cal is the male main character, the love interest. She's freaking out a little bit that she's having to work with this guy, and he happens to be beautiful. So that doesn't add to the angst inside of her. So she says, in her brain, she's thinking, what cute things am I going to say? And then like it lists a bunch of things in the left and is, I want to poke your arm muscles. I so thought that. I laughed so hard when I read that. I had to stop my audiobook because I was laughing so hard I couldn't hear what was happening next. Oh my goodness. Okay. So here are some other ones that I just think are so funny that I have to share them with you guys. Okay, so she and Cal are, we're at lunch and they're going back up to their offices or whatever. Okay, so the elevator dings and the door opens, and when Cal follows me in, my mind flashes to the many, many episodes of Grey's Anatomy I've watched, and the pivotal role the elevator always seems to play. Of course, those doctors don't need an elevator to hook up. They don't seem too picky about location, but for whatever reason, it's practically impossible for two attractive medical professionals to take a simple elevator ride that doesn't end in a makeout session. I'm crying. It's so funny. I've seen bits and pieces of Grey's Anatomy, but yes, like, how true is that? Oh my goodness, so funny. Probably the last one because they're just hilarious. Oh, they're like one after the other. These are just a few examples that are just so funny and this relate to me as the reader because I have been through very similar things. Anyway, okay. The following week, I went to a soccer game with Marty. So Marty is the elderly gentleman that has just lost his wife. Historically, I've never seen sporting events as a place that could usher in any feelings other than anxiety and claustrophobia. Maybe because of all the years I was forced to play dodgeball in gym class. That's legit trauma, you know? Yeah, I know, I hated dodgeball. Why is it that my head attracts every single dodgeball that was played? I mean, come on. Anyway, this book is fantastic. Now, I will say that because Marty is dealing with the loss of his wife, there is a little bit of, grief. And when I hear people talking about that, I'm like, okay, moving on. I'm just not a fan of that. But I don't search for that in books, and most of the time I avoid it like the plague. But in this one, I like it because it's handled like a normal human would handle it. And she does a really good job of acknowledging that this character is going through this, but that happy moments happen after that. And that when you surround yourself with your people, that they help pull you out of that. And I love it. I love this book so much. It is absolutely fantastic, and I think everyone should read it. I will update you guys more in another clip on the last hour and a half of the audiobook, but it is one that will sit with me for a long time. Not only because I'm hysterically bawling because of laughing, but I'm crying because, and I don't cry a lot during books because I'm sad. I cry because I'm happy generally. but I'm loving just this storyline of helping friends through hard times by helping them see the happiness in life. Anyway, the next clip, here it is. Okay, everyone, I have updates for my 5-star prediction. I finally made progress in this activity that I'm doing, and I'm really excited to sort of wrap it up and start the new ones, which is awesome. Next round. So I officially finished The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley. 1,000% 5 stars. Go out and read it. It is wonderful. I spent a lot of time talking about that in the last clip, so I'm not going to do any more here. The next one I read was Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred Taylor. This won the Newbery years ago, and I can see why. We follow this family in the South in the 20s. I want to say. It's been a while since I've read it. I'm behind on filming, and you just follow sort of their life and what that time in our country was like for people of different races, things like that. And I loved it. I can see why a colleague of mine read it every single year with her 5th grade students. It brought up a lot of good thoughts in my head, and a lot of good topics that kids would be really interested in discussing. I loved it. It was really well done, and I loved the kids' perspective of like, well, that's not fair. Why is that happening? And the parents would be like, it's just kind of is what it is right now. And I loved our main character, Cassie, I think. I loved her spunk. I love her grit. I really, really enjoyed this, and I can see why it won the Newbery. I would love to read it with some of my tutoring kiddos. The next one that I read was called Allies by Alan Gratz. It's my first Alan Gratz. Going back to Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, I will say that it is totally kid appropriate. I will say that it says the N-word quite a bit. There's no other swearing, there's no other weird content, but it does say the N-word. And in the author's note at the end, she said, from the author, I get a lot of pushback on putting that word into my books because they're for kids, and that's not an appropriate word, and we teach kids, we don't say that word, things like that. But this is my family, speaking of this author's past, this is what they grew up with. This is, was common language, and I felt like it was appropriate because it was my family, and so she just sort of explains why she uses that word so much. So I will say that if you want your child to read it, explain to them that that word is inappropriate. Okay, Allies by Alan Gratz. This is my first Alan Gratz, not my last. I really, really enjoyed it. I don't know if I've ever read a story in which the entire book is based on one day. We follow all the different Allied troops from all of our different countries on D-Day in World War II. On Normandy, they're storming Normandy, so we follow like the Canadian paratroopers and the British Navy that brought all the tanks in, and then all the Americans who stormed the beach, and some French resistance people who were in France during that time, and all from kids' perspective. I will say that there was a little too much swearing. I am not a fan of any swearing in kids' books, like none. And so there was just a little bit more than I would have liked if it was geared towards adults, whatever. But for kids, I felt like it was just a touch too much. But I loved the history behind it and how important that is for young kids, especially in 2026, 80 plus years after the fact, to understand and realize. And there is a lot of death in this book just because that's what happened on that day. There's a lot of success and happiness as well, but there's just a lot of things that happen because a lot of things happened on that day in history. I really, really enjoyed it. I found it very, very interesting. The last one was The Shape of Thunder by Jasmine Warga. I have read 2 other Jasmine Warga books, and I have loved them. So I went into this super duper excited, and I was reading it during a time when, you know, my physical space was in chaos. It was kind of the last weeks of school, so my business was in chaos, my mind was in chaos. And then I did a little bit of research on what this book was about, and it was about, if I'm remembering correctly, something that working in a school is very close to my heart, which is a school shooting. And I was not in the right headspace to read this book. I got about maybe 15% in, and I was like, you know what? Nope, I know what's coming. I don't want to read it. I'm just going to stop for now. Maybe it'll come in later. I don't do that working in a school system for all of my adult life. That is something that's very tender and very close, just because of I've done trainings and different things like that. And I was just like, yeah, nope, my mental space is not in a place where I can handle that right now. And so I'm just not going to put myself through that. So I will say that I did not finish The Shape of Thunder. I don't know if it's a good book or maybe not one that I read, just because I knew my mind at that time, and I knew that I wasn't going to give it a fair shot because of where I was at mentally, physically, things like that. So overall, it was a fantastic project. I had so much fun. Now, the next round, let's talk about next round. Here are the 5 books that I want to read during this next round. Okay, here are the 5 books that I want to do for the next round of 5-star predictions. The first one is from my favorite author of all time, Sarah M. Eden. This is book 5 in the Gent series. This is called Love in a Mist. I have loved every single one of the previous 4. I love Sarah M. Eden. I think she is wonderful. She's been getting some bad things that I saw. She posted something on Instagram that she got some mean comments. I'm like, not okay, because she's wonderful. I've met her twice. She's a delight. Anywho, not cool people. Anyway, I'm excited for this one. We are following Lord Aldrich and a French beauty, Celeste Fortier. So that will be fun. I'm excited. This is France in 1789. This is a proper romance. Wonderful. Okay. The next one, all of these are off my shelves too, because I'm like, I wanted to get some stuff off my shelf. Heart of the Glen by Jennifer Dybel. I've heard really good things about this. I have no idea how to pronounce her name, but she is from Drumboy Castle, something along those lines. Anyway, it looks Ireland, Scotlandy. I don't know where it's, does it say? Oh, my ancestors are turning in their graves right now because I'm from this part of the world. Anywho, I'm really excited. I heard really good things about this one. I just picked it up at the store, and when I hauled it on the channel, everyone in the comments was like, ooh, you'll really like that one. I think that one's really, really good. It's a fun book. So I'm excited for that one. I am including a nonfiction. I have slacked off this year on my nonfiction reading. So this is What We See, How the Questions of Jesus Lead Us to Him, by S. Michael Wilcox. This is a short little guy. I need to put more nonfiction in my life, and so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to sort of put it more on my radar. And then, oh my goodness, I love Heather B. Moore. I've read so many of her other historical fictions. They're wonderful. You can tell how much research goes into all of her books because it shows on the page. This is Julia, inspired by the extraordinary life of Julia Child. And so it's just from reading the little insert here. She was a spy during World War II. And then she becomes this famous TV chef based on French cooking. And so I'm really excited for that. And then this next one, I'm jumping on the bandwagon, and I'm a little bit nervous because when I hear so many good things online, it scares me because I'm weird, and when the majority of the world likes it, I generally don't. Whatever. Theo of Golden by Alan Levi. I have literally heard not one bad thing about this. I've heard that it is just truly beautiful. The premise looks really cute, that this guy is trying to rehome pictures of people in the town. There's a ton of family names throughout this as I was just flipping through it at the store. So that's always fun. And so that I'm gonna see if it's 5 stars like everyone else has thought it was. So these are the new 5 books. Oh god. Okay, so these are the 5 books that I will be reading for the next round of 5-star predictions. I am super excited. In the comments, let me know what you guys think. Have you read any of these? What should be some of my next go-to books, in your opinion, based on what you know that I like? I will talk to you guys very, very soon. Bye.